Tonight, former Secretary of State and probable presidential candidate Hillary Clinton finally opens up about why she used a personal email account to handle government business during her time as Secretary of State. Clinton says she went above and beyond what was required of a State Department employee. Could the scandal hurt her possible run for the White House, or will it just blow over? Tonight, we want to hear from you on this matter. We're opening up our phone lines. Also, Vice President Joe Biden comes out swinging at the GOP. Biden says the 47 senators who sent a letter to Iranian officials urging them not to move forward on a deal with President Obama were undermining the commander-in-chief's authority. Is the GOP trying to sabotage the administration on this? Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin speaks with RFL about the battle. Plus, Cardinal Edward Egan now laid to rest. Mourners poured into St. Patrick's Cathedral today to say goodbye to New York's former Archbishop. We'll have a full report coming up. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman. Richard French has this night off. Thanks so much for joining us. We begin tonight with the email controversy surrounding former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Today, Clinton spoke to the media, saying she had no reason to save her personal emails during her tenure as Secretary of State. Clinton said more than 60,000 emails were sent and about half of them were personal. Let's listen now to Clinton's comments in full surrounding the controversy.
There are four things I want the public to know. First, when I got to work as Secretary of State, I opted for convenience to use my personal email account, which was allowed by the State Department, because I thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails instead of two. Looking back, it would have been better if I'd simply used a second email account and carried a second phone, but at the time, this didn't seem like an issue. Second, the vast majority of my work emails went to government employees at their government addresses, which meant they were captured and preserved immediately on the system at the State Department. Third, after I left office, the State Department asked former secretaries of state for our assistance in providing copies of work-related emails from our personal accounts. I responded right away and provided all my emails that could possibly be work-related, which totaled roughly 55,000 printed pages, even though I knew that the State Department already had the vast majority of them. We went through a thorough process to identify all of my work-related emails and deliver them to the State Department. At the end, I chose not to keep my private personal emails, emails about planning Chelsea's wedding or my mother's funeral arrangements, condolence notes to friends, as well as yoga routines, family vacations, the other things you typically find in inboxes. No one wants their personal emails made public, and I think most people understand that and respect that privacy. Fourth, I took the unprecedented step of asking that the State Department make all my work-related emails public for everyone to see. I am very proud of the work that I and my colleagues and our public servants at the department did during my 4 years as Secretary of State. And I look forward to people being able to see that for themselves. Again, looking back, it would have been better for me to use two separate phones and two email accounts. I thought using one device would be simpler, and obviously it hasn't worked out that way.
There was some additional Q&A with reporters, but in about that 15 minutes, Clinton pretty much stuck to the answers or to the comments that you just heard her give in that statement. The State Department says all of Clinton's emails as Secretary of State will be published on a website after they are reviewed. The department says that review will take several months and will eventually be posted online for the public. Meanwhile, the chairman of the committee investigating Benghazi says Clinton raised more questions than answers, and as a result, he will have to call her to testify twice more. All right, let's get to some reaction now, and we'll bring in Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. And Dominic, Clinton clearly addressed the issue, but did she put it to bed?
Absolutely not, Andrew. I have to agree with the chairman of the committee looking at the Benghazi situation, the Republican chairman. The problem is this. One, Hillary Clinton, who's a master at politics, waited too long to respond to this. too many open-ended questions playing into two sets of rules, one for everyone else, one for the Clintons. And as you know, I have consistently said, and quite early, that it appears to me, in my opinion, as a political journalist, that she had the Democratic nomination and was well on her way to being the next president of the United States. But this opens a lot of doors. Is she ready? I never thought I'd say something like this. Is a Clinton actually ready for prime time? You know, it was inevitable that she was headed to, notice I'm using past tense. It was inevitable that she was headed to the Democratic nomination. But if you're the former governor of Maryland or some of the other candidates that are looking at running, you're now going, you know, we can perhaps capture the nomination. Lots of mistakes on this one.
What's bothering you most about this? What she did or the way she's handled it so far in the response and in the reaction in public?
What she did. With all due respect, she is saying, I will be the final decider of what's important and what's government business, and that's that. And conveniently, she's already laid it out, about half of those emails have already been erased. So you know the Republican chairman is going to be trying to subpoena when were these emails erased. Did it happen 2 weeks ago? Did it happen when she left as Secretary of State? Again, it's the cloud of secrecy.
And for me, it's that it's all under her control. I mean, the Secretary of State is a position that we want to be able to see the public record on what exactly the communications were. And she's saying, well, I CC'd a government account on most of these things, but, you know, 55,000 pages of emails. She didn't CC the State Department on every single one of them. And there are legitimate questions, I think, about communications that she may or may not have had in the role as Secretary of State. And also, you know, so if you want to get to it, you have to go through her. She's the one who made the decision as to what gets purged and what doesn't get purged. She's the one who's forwarded everything to the State Department for them to go through. But how do we know that everything that she's sending to the State Department is everything there is?
She does. At the end of the day, it's my hunch that this may, and I emphasize may, result in much ado about nothing. May. It could also, to the other extreme, be the beginning of the end. You know, I know that sounds a bit dramatic, but for example, Mrs. Clinton is right when she makes the strong argument that, you know, look, to the people in the State Department that I sent emails to, the fact that it went to their government email addresses, that's preserved. There's a record. But for example, if she asked President Clinton some advice on a matter before the State Department, that's not public.
Right.
And she could have already erased that.
Look, I don't think there's any smoking gun email in there. I don't think there's anything that says, like, boy, we should stand down in Benghazi, or who cares about that.
She's much too smart for that.
I'm sure that's true. But the stuff that we don't know about, that's of concern to me. And also, if a committee in Congress starts investigating and starts subpoenaing everything, might there be something in there of a more salacious nature that pops up just because they now have all the information? And I keep thinking about Whitewater when President Clinton, Bill Clinton, was in the White House, which started with a real estate deal in Arkansas. And that's what got us to Monica Lewinsky. I'm not saying there's a Monica Lewinsky in all this, but who knows if there's some, you know, email to Bill about your behavior or your activities, or some fight with Chelsea and her husband, or whatever the case may be. Those kinds of salacious details that remind people once again, oh, it's the Clintons.
But even if there's not a salacious email in there, she has already given her critics plenty of ammunition. And here's where the ammunition falls in terms of, these will be questions that will remain around forever. We don't know what was erased.
Right.
We don't know if you've already got rid of the smoking guns on whatever issue. We do know that any investigative body, if they keep looking, and let's be honest now, and let me go to the other extreme, the Benghazi investigation, all this is putting new life into something that was dead. So it's going to be interesting.
All right, we've been talking about it at the panel tonight, and we've been talking about it on the show for a little bit, but we haven't heard from you at home. And after a break, we're going to continue this conversation on the Clinton email scandal, or maybe not a scandal, depending on your perspective. But I want to hear from you at home. We're going to open up our phone lines. Call the number on your screen. It's 888-766-2428. We're going to take your calls after the break. Want to find out what you thought of Clinton's performance today, whether you think this is a big deal, whether she answered all the questions, or whether you think this is something of a hiccup on her, what most people expected would be a smooth path to the nomination and maybe the White House. That's next.